What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Costa Nostra, back at you guys with another sneaker review, unboxing, and that on-feet look with a sock combo to match. Guys, let's jump right into another sneaker review. Alright guys, if you rock with this channel, you know the vein we're usually coming from. Whether it's Jordans or Nike basketball, we usually don't stray too far from there, guys. The Nike PG4 G, the colorway on this bad boy is Summit White / multicolor. The size is a men's US size 11, and the price point is $120 US, guys. Let's pull these out the box and check out another Gatorade colorway. Alright guys, there they are in hand, the Nike PG4 G, or yet another Gatorade collab. These are once again clean in my opinion, as really these Gatorade colorways on the PG4 have been some of the best colorways, if not all of the best colorways in my humble opinion, guys, and this one is no exception. I do dig this colorway. I don't know if it's because I'm just such a big fan of this silhouette, the feel of the shoe on feet, all that stuff, etc, etc, or guys, if it's just another sort of less than traditional colorway, something you don't see every day on the shelves from Nike basketball, from Nike, from Adidas, just a less than typical colorway. However guys, it's pretty poppin'. There's sort of an orange kind of citrus theme going on to this particular shoe, and honestly I think these things would look great with like a Houston Rockets jersey, a Kansas City Chiefs jersey, something like that. This colorway, in my opinion, maybe not my favorite Gatorade colorway, because there has been some absolute bangers from the Gatorade series so far. However guys, definitely happy to add these things to the collection for retail and not have to go out there and pay resale for these things. If you checked out my last review, guys, you will definitely see that these are sort of a follow-up to that colorway. Once again, we have a return of this sort of white see-through translucent shroud on the lateral portion of the shoe. On most of the colorways of this shoe, that shroud has not been translucent, and really guys, they've used the medial side of the shoe and the mesh hits on the medial side of that shoe to really display some of the underworkings of the shoe, whether it's the color pops or just the actual lacing system and what's actually kind of going on underneath the shoe to sort of stabilize your upper foot and what have you. But fam, on this Gatorade colorway and that last Gatorade colorway, which was a little bit more of like a lemon lime vibe, they've come at us with the sort of translucent upper shroud, which I actually like. I dig it. I think it's a nice little switch up from some of the things they've been doing with this shoe so far. I don't think they need to necessarily overdo it, but I like the fact that they came at us with two colorways of these and not necessarily just one. If you've been keeping track of the Gatorade drops, they've sort of done that so far. There was the first Gatorade drop, and then there was a 2K variation of that Gatorade colorway, and then really the standalone Gatorade colorway has really been that all-star colorway, which guys might be my favorite because it just really stands out. It really pops, just all the color hits and splashes on there. And guys, not only that, but that colorway itself is really kind of popping off right now because it almost has sort of like a tie-dye theme to the colorway itself. However, it is definitely not tie-dye, but right now guys, tie-dye is definitely back in a big way, so definitely a tough colorway. We've talked a little bit about that upper white translucent shroud. On the lateral portion of the shoe, underneath that shroud, you can see the lacing system and the sort of bands that work their way up from that midsole up to the actual lacing system itself. You've got some hits of really kind of like a gold yellow, predominantly on the lower strap portions right there. They sort of culminate at the top in some nice bold hits of blue, and that's going to be the actual lace holes that you're going to work the laces through right there. And then everywhere else, guys, sort of underneath those bands and underneath the lacing system, all on that lateral portion of the shoe, working your way all the way up to the toe box of the shoe, you're going to see that sort of PG infinity logo, which I think is another really dope signature logo from Nike. They did a really good job and took their time, threw a lot of pretty cool symbolism in for something like that. That's just such a simple 2 letters, right? Everywhere that you see that infinity logo, you'll see kind of like in a grid pattern. Right around it, you'll see the actual Gatorade Fuel logo right there. They sort of have kind of the same shape, with the PG Infinity logo kind of being like that hourglass shape that's sort of laying sideways, and then the actual Gatorade Fuel logo being an X. So they do a pretty good job of kind of coupling one another right there. In the middle portion of the forefoot, there is a very, very large triangular stab of white right there. It's almost like a little bit of a mud guard or something like that, but it's definitely been a pretty big design feature on a lot of these colorways. And they've chose to dress some of these colorways, that triangle, in different colors. Although it's been white on this colorway and the last Gatorade colorway that was really kind of like a sister pair to these. You've got an all-white midsole. There's sort of these kind of telltale bumps all over the midsole, which to me has really symbolized what they did with the actual cushioning system of this shoe. If you followed the PG line from jump, guys, you've known it's been a shoe that's always had Zoom Air, and they chose to take the 4 in a completely different direction, and they went with what they've called an Air Strobel board. And basically the way they described it is they injected numerous spots throughout the midsole with Air itself. Of course, guys, the difference between Air and Zoom is going to be Air is going to have more of a pillow feel because it's just literally going to be airbags in the shoe, whereas in Zoom it's more like an injected air, so it's almost more like a pressurized airbag. So guys, when you land on the Zoom units, it tends to feel like it propels you back a little bit, whereas when you land on these Air units, it's a little bit more pillowy, a little bit more cushiony, a little bit more of a traditional feel to that. However, having said that, they did something very different with this PG4, and they chose to inject air throughout. So instead of just having a square or a rectangle or maybe kind of like a circular or hexagonal airbag somewhere throughout the shoe, or maybe 2 throughout the shoe being on the forefront, or generally the heel portion of the shoe is typically what they go with, guys. What they chose to do with the PG4 is kind of taken in a completely different direction, and they injected the entire midsole with various spots of air, and I think that's really what they're trying to symbolize on that midsole. That's why you've got sort of like this braille kind of space, kind of molecule sort of looking material all over that white midsole. Same material, same kind of design, dresses the actual sides of the box as well, guys. Just sort of a heavy, innovative feature of the shoe, something they're obviously proud of, and something that I think that they wanted to kind of illustrate on the sides of the shoe, so that's why they were so extra in doing that, guys. At least that's my opinion. I'm not 100 on that, but guys, I'm pretty sure it makes a lot of sense to me. On that back half of the lateral section of the shoe, you see a large Nike swoosh. It's more or less an outline of a Nike swoosh. It's going to be in orange because the interior of that swoosh is all clear. Once again, that translucent upper shroud material, and underneath, guys, you can see the bands that work their way up to the lacing system, and then of course the PG Infinity logos and the Gatorade Fuel logos throughout. Obviously, another humongous design feature of the shoe is going to be the shroud itself, and the zipper that is featured on the shoe sort of harkens back, of course, to the Gary Payton gloves. However, the one humongous difference between that shoe and this shoe is going to be the breathability of this shoe. Back in the day, you had a lot more leather hits throughout these shoes. Nowadays, guys, especially on these lower end models, they typically choose to go with meshes, textile materials, things like that. Things that tend to be a lot lighter and a lot more breathable, guys. So if you unzip that shroud, which is something you can definitely do if you're wearing these things casually or if you're wearing them on court, guys. However, to me, it makes a lot more sense to zip the shroud up if you're actually balling in these on court, because it really does make the upper fit of the shoe a lot more snug. And what is that going to do for you guys? Well, if you're on court, that's going to lock you down to the actual footbed of the shoe, guys, which is really the most important thing, because if you're not locked down on that footbed, whether you're jumping or you're contorting, you're twisting, whatever it is that you're doing, guys, if you're not locked down, guess what, guys? That's what leads to having ankle injuries. It's not necessarily high ankle support on a basketball shoe, as nowadays high top basketball shoes are basically non-existent, guys, because they're trying to go with something more lightweight, something more forgiving for the duration of an entire basketball game. With these guys running and jumping up and down the court all the time, practicing, sometimes playing games, every other night. There's a lot of fatigue that's built in, so it's always key to sort of minimize some of the weight and some of the features of these shoes to make them a little bit more forgiving, guys. So gone are the days of the high top, high laced basketball shoes, guys, because it's not what provides that structural support. It's actually locking you down to the footbed of the shoe, which that lacing system, that fit of the shoe is going to provide. And then the next, perhaps most important thing is going to be the actual heel cup of the shoe, locking your heel, locking your ankle into the shoe itself. That way, guys, you're not all over the place in these things. That's the key thing in a basketball shoe, in a running shoe, anything, guys, to keep you from getting those ankle injuries that are going to keep you sidelined, which nobody wants. Now, while this shoe accomplishes that with the actual heel cup and then the lacing system and the shroud of the shoe, I will say this shoe fits incredibly snug, so you're almost definitely going to be sizing up a half size in these shoes. Some people might choose to size up a full size. I've definitely seen people do that, go a full size up, and these things still fit them pretty snug. And then of course, for people who are growing, you're probably going to want to go a full size up, or maybe even consider going a little bit further than that, depending on where you are in that shoe, and if it's strictly going to be a basketball shoe, or if it's going to be something that you might be wearing a little bit more every day as you continue to grow up in the shoes. The laces of the shoes are orange, and again, you've got a little bit of a different hit where it's going to be sort of a little bit of a brighter orange, or maybe a little bit more of a red on the actual tips of the laces themselves. To me, it just sort of comes across as brighter because it is sort of that gloss hit and not flat. But that's something they've done with all these PGs. Pretty much the lace tips have always kind of had a little bit of a different color to them. So again, a little bit of variation there on this colorway, no difference there. And then as you unzip the shroud, as we started to talk about doing before, you can see the actual Gatorade fuel with the little lightning bolt logo right there on the tongue. That's something that's appeared on all these Gatorade colorways, which I think has been a dope little hit right there. And on this particular colorway, it's going to be on both shoes. So you're not going to see the Paul George logo on either the left or right tongue. It's going to be that Gatorade GX sort of fuel logo that's featured right there on both tongues. As you turn to the medial portion of the shoe, you got a lot of the same sort of color blocking. Of course, the main difference is going to be they feature the humongous hit of mesh predominantly everywhere on that portion of the shoe. A little bit of the toe box doesn't actually feature that hit of mesh, but that has been a staple with all these PG4s. They've always had the mesh that you've been able to see through. You've been able to see the underworkings of the shoe, regardless of the fact that this shoe provided you that glimpse on the actual translucent side as well. On all these colorways on the medial side, that's what that mesh side has been able to do, and it's sort of come at us with a little bit of a change up, just because it's so much of a different look from anything on the wall, from Nike basketball, or really anybody that's putting out a basketball shoe right now this year. So you've got a lot more hits of that sort of golden kind of yellow color, whether it's the actual full-length Nike Air that's sort of featured right there in the midsole, sort of the outlining of the outsole itself, or the outlining of the sock liner or the tongue. I think that's a nice little hit, especially on that sock liner and on the tongue. Sort of a little bit of a change up on the colorway. Definitely makes it pop a little bit more because you got a lot more of that orange everywhere else, but that gold kind of accents that orange very well in my opinion. And then that bold red, which really just comes across as a lot more muted because of the actual kind of white hit to the translucent portion of the shoe itself. Very clean, guys. That outsole, like we said, it's sort of outlined in that kind of golden yellow color, and then the inner portion of the outsole is going to be all white right there, guys. The traction on this outsole, I know it's taken some hits because even in hand on feet, walking around in these things, that rubber just kind of, it just gives off the feeling that it's a very, very soft compound. And I've really heard people complain about these things when you're playing with them outdoors, on outdoor courts, and that they just don't tend to hold up. If you're really, really going hard in these things, you're really going to be tearing that outsole up, guys. But the traction pattern itself, pretty uniform, and because it is that sort of circular pattern throughout, guys, you got to figure it's really going to provide a lot of uniformity in all kind of directions, whether it's lateral, backwards, side to side, diagonally. This thing's really going to dig in and give you some good grip on court. All in all, guys, another clean colorway from Gatorade. They have definitely done a better job, in my opinion, with these PG4 Gatorade colorways than they did a couple years ago with the Jordan 1 colorways, and of course those two Jordan 6 colorways. although that green one was straight bananas, guys. I gotta put those things on feet. I believe mine are still dead stock. But all in all, guys, this pack, in my opinion, doper. I like the colors. I think they just pop more. They're just a little bit more memorable, at least to me, but they definitely fit my kind of style of sneaker collecting a little bit more than sort of the one uniform color that was dressing those Jordan 1s, especially, guys. Those are really predominantly what I think of when I think of that Gatorade pack. Guys, let's check these things out on feet. Much love for rocking with me in my review. As always, guys, you guys mean the world to me. Rocking with me and supporting me. Can't express that to y'all enough. Comment, like, subscribe. Y'all know what to do. Any questions y'all have, whether they be pertaining to the shoes or pertaining to, you know, me and what's going on with me and maybe my lack of output or whatever, or anything else that I'm copping. If you guys want to see me do more Jordan reviews, I've kind of stopped doing that because nobody was really watching any of my Jordan reviews, and it just takes me a lot of time to do these things and especially edit these things. And by the time I was getting them out, especially me, the way my crazy, chaotic, numerous job schedule is, it's hard for me to find time to go out and get some quality footage during the day of these things on feet and some outside shots as I like to do for you guys. It's just been a humongous hassle, and even when I can get that video out pretty quickly, it just doesn't typically get views on my channel because there's so many people out there that are doing Jordans, and a lot of people are doing them early too. But let me know, guys, if enough of y'all really want to see me trying to get back in the swing of some of those, I'll try to do that for y'all and throw my sock combos in the mix. Guys, let's get into it. Let's check them out on feet. Much love. Stay blessed, fam. Peace.